Years ago, in the tender haze of new motherhood, my world shattered. Just weeks after giving birth to my daughter, I uncovered a betrayal so profound it reshaped my understanding of love, trust, and family. My husband, now 52, had been unfaithful. To me, now 39, with not one but both of my sisters. We had been married for 5 years, building what I thought was a solid foundation of shared dreams and mutual devotion. The discovery of his affairs felt like a physical blow, knocking the air from my lungs and leaving me reeling in a storm of grief and disbelief. Neither of my sisters, my older sister, with whom I'd shared secrets and laughter, nor my younger sister, adopted and only 3 months my junior, knew about the other's involvement with him. The affairs came to light in a cascade of revelations, sparked when my mother stumbled upon evidence of my older sister's betrayal. Her discovery prompted my younger sister to confess her own entanglement, unraveling a web of deceit that ensnared us all. When I confronted my husband, my voice trembling, with a mix of rage and heartbreak, he offered no defense, no apology. He stood silent, his face unreadable, then turned and walked out the door. That was the last I saw of him for nearly 4 years. His absence left a void, filled only by the monthly checks he sent, cold, impersonal transactions that sustained us financially, but did nothing to mend the gaping wound in my heart. Devastated and humiliated, I made the painful decision to sever ties with my sisters. They had crossed a line so unforgivable that I couldn't bear to look at them, let alone maintain a relationship. They never reached out, never offered an apology, and never sought to meet their niece, my daughter, whose existence seemed to hold no weight in their world. Their silence spoke volumes, cementing my resolve to keep them out of our lives. My extended family, witnessing my pain, rallied around me with fierce loyalty. They established an unspoken rule for family gatherings. If I was attending, my sisters were not welcome. If I was absent, they could come. I didn't ask for this arrangement, but my family insisted it was only fair. They believed that I, as the one who had been so deeply wounded, shouldn't have to endure the discomfort of facing my betrayers. This protective stance meant my daughter grew up without knowing her aunts. I never spoke of them, and my extended family followed suit, ensuring that their names and stories remained buried in the past. To my daughter, her aunts were strangers, their existence erased from our narrative as thoroughly as I had excised them from my heart. In those early years, I focused on rebuilding my life and raising my daughter. The pain of betrayal lingered, but I channeled my energy into creating a stable, loving home for her. I was determined to shield her from the chaos that had upended my world, to give her the security and joy I felt I had lost. When she was a toddler, a letter arrived from her father, unexpected and heavy with the weight of his words. He explained that he had spent the past 2 years in therapy, grappling with mental health struggles and addiction. He admitted that these issues were no excuse for his actions, but expressed a desire to make amends and be part of our daughter's life. His words stirred a complex mix of emotions: skepticism, anger, and a faint flicker of hope. I didn't trust him, not after the devastation he'd caused, but I couldn't ignore the part of me that wanted my daughter to know her father. I didn't want her to grow up with the same void I'd felt in his absence, wondering who he was or why he left. With cautious steps, I allowed him back into our lives. We started with small interactions, carefully monitored and bound by strict boundaries I set to protect myself and my daughter. Over time, those interactions grew into a civil co-parenting relationship. Now a teenager, my daughter has a father who supports her financially and emotionally, showing up for her in ways I never thought possible after his betrayal. He has respected my boundaries, never pushing for more than I'm willing to give, and I've seen genuine effort in his role as a father. While I'll never forgive him for the pain he inflicted, I've come to believe that my daughter is better off with him in her life. His presence has given her a sense of completeness, a connection to her roots that I couldn't provide alone. But the past, as it often does, refused to stay buried. About a week ago, my older sister reached out to my daughter on Facebook, a platform where teenagers live and breathe their social lives. She introduced herself as her aunt and expressed a vague desire to mend old wounds. My daughter, unaware of the history, was intrigued but confused. When she pressed for details, my sister demurred, saying it wasn't her place to explain and that my daughter should ask me. The audacity of her approach ignited a fire in me. I was livid, not just at her intrusion into my daughter's life, but at the manipulative way she dangled half-truths, leaving my daughter to grapple with questions she wasn't prepared to face. I called my sister, my voice shaking with years of pent-up anger, and tore into her for upsetting my daughter and bypassing me. Her actions felt like a fresh betrayal, a reminder of why I'd cut her out in the first place. The fallout forced me to confront a truth I'd hoped to delay. I sat down with my daughter, my heart heavy, and explained the painful reality of her father's affairs with my sisters. I chose my words carefully, striving to be honest without overwhelming her, but the truth was a bitter pill. She listened, her face crumpling as the weight of it settled in, and when I finished, she declared she wanted no further contact with her father. Her words hit me like a wave, stirring a mix of guilt and resolve. I tried to reason with her, explaining that despite his past mistakes, he has proven himself a good father, and the issue was between him and me, not her. But she was adamant, her pain raw and unyielding, so I respected her wishes, knowing that pushing her would only deepen her hurt. Her father, devastated by her decision, turned his frustration on me. He blamed me for telling her the truth, insisting I should have fabricated a different reason for our falling out with my sisters, something softer, less damaging to his relationship with her. His accusations stung, but I stood firm. Lying to my daughter would have been a betrayal of the trust we've built, a disservice to her growing maturity. She's a teenager now, not a little girl who needs shielding from hard truths. The reality of her father's actions was bound to surface eventually, and I refused to be the one to weave a web of deception to delay the inevitable. When I shared this dilemma with friends, some sided with him, arguing that I should have protected her relationship with her father. They suggested that losing him could hurt her more than a lie would have. Their words gnawed at me, planting seeds of doubt, but deep down, I knew honesty was the only path I could take. I believe I did the right thing. My daughter deserves the truth, not a sanitized version of her family's history designed to preserve a fragile status quo. I protected her when she was young, shielding her from the chaos of her father's betrayal. I gave him a chance to be in her life, despite the pain he caused, and he has benefited immensely from my willingness to co-parent. Now, it's his responsibility to rebuild trust with her, to navigate the consequences of his actions when she's ready to hear from him. A man who thought he could have affairs with 3 sisters and escape unscathed was naive at best, manipulative at worst. His insistence that I should have lied to our daughter suggests he hasn't fully reckoned with the depth of his mistakes, despite his claims of growth. The only people pointing fingers at me are the ones who caused this mess. My ex-husband and my sisters. It's a classic tactic, deflecting blame onto the victim to avoid accountability. My extended family's unwavering support shows they see me as the one who was wronged, not a scapegoat for their failures. My older sister's decision to contact my daughter wasn't an olive branch. It was a calculated move, likely driven by resentment that my ex has a relationship with me and our daughter while she remains on the outside. By vaguely hinting at old wounds and directing my daughter to me, she forced my hand, ensuring the truth would come out on her terms. Her actions weren't about healing, they were about inflicting new pain, a reminder of the toxicity I've worked so hard to escape. Cutting her and my younger sister out of my life was painful but necessary, and I have no intention of reopening that door. The outpouring of support I've received in response to this ordeal has been a lifeline. I'm deeply grateful for the perspectives shared, which have reaffirmed my decision to be honest with my daughter. I was haunted by the fear that lying might have been the wrong choice, and the validation has been a much-needed sanity check. Several people advised giving her time to process this bombshell, and I've taken that to heart. Her anger is raw and intense, a natural response to learning such a painful truth. I've made it clear to her that she shouldn't cut off her father because of what he did to me. I've moved past the hurt and am genuinely glad she has a relationship with him. If she chooses to go no contact, I've told her it should be for her own reasons, not mine, and our family will stand by her decision. I'm careful not to pressure her to reconnect, knowing from my own experience that being pushed to forgive my sisters would have bred resentment. I needed time to chart my own path, and I want to give her the same freedom. To provide some context, I was 18 when I married my ex-husband, who was 30. We met through my part-time weekend job at a pub, a bustling place where I poured drinks and he charmed customers with his easy smile. He looked younger than his age, and I looked older, so I assumed he was around 20. Looking back as an adult, I don't believe he deliberately targeted a young girlfriend to manipulate, but I recognize I was young and infatuated, swept up in the thrill of his attention. He was immature, unbothered by the age gap, though he should have been. We dated for 2 years before marrying, a whirlwind romance that felt like destiny at the time. My parents liked him as a person but saw red flags in the age difference. Knowing I was strong-willed, they chose not to openly disapprove, preserving our relationship so I'd always feel safe turning to them. Their wisdom kept them close, ready to step in if I needed them. My younger sister, adopted, and only 3 months younger than me, was a part of our tight-knit trio growing up, which made her betrayal all the more gut-wrenching. We were all adults when the affairs began, but the pain of their choices cut just as deep. If my daughter brought home a partner in their 30s, I'd be horrified, but I know she's as headstrong as I was at her age. I hope I'd respond with the same calm presence my parents showed, ensuring she always has a safe haven to return to. The truth about her father's past is painful, but shielding her from it would only delay the inevitable. She's old enough to grapple with the complexities of her family's history, and I trust she'll find her way through this with time and support. For now, I'm focused on being her anchor, offering love and honesty as she navigates the storm of emotions this revelation has unleashed. The road ahead may be rocky, but I believe in her strength and in the resilience we've built together.